friends, welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a very exciting video. We are going to be reading my most anticipated release of 2025. Now, my most anticipated release of 2025 is Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. I love Abby Jimenez as a romance author. I feel that she writes very human and realistic relationships. Her third act conflicts don't typically involve miscommunication. And so I am just always down for whatever she puts out. I have rated every single book of hers somewhere between 4 and 5 stars, and I am hoping that this will be no exception. So much so that it's getting a video all to itself because I think it deserves such, special treatment. But this book is going to be following Xavier and Samantha. Xavier is a veterinarian. Samantha is a social media manager for a mustard company, of all things. But, she replies to people's tweets with snarky responses and that sort of thing. But the two of them meet when Samantha rescues a little baby kitten. And when she does so, the kitten, of course, needs medical care. And she chooses to take the kitten to Xavier's veterinary practice. And the two of them initially have a not so meet cute where he is a bit rude to her. And she comes away from that interaction determined to prove him wrong. And eventually, I guess he gets his head out of his behind because they, according to the dust jacket, go on this one perfect date, but due to Samantha's life circumstances, she says, hey, this was wonderful, beautiful, and fabulous, but I don't think this is going to work, and he can't let her go. So I am super excited for this book, so much so that I seem to have inadvertently matched my nail polish with the cover. I don't know if you guys can see that if it focused, but if it did, totally not on purpose, but it really did work out that way. So I am going to dive into this book, and I will check in with you guys halfway and we will talk about how I'm feeling. Hopefully it is a 5-star feeling. All right, my friends, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is that I am enjoying this book. The bad news is that this is not going to be a 5-star read. Now, as I said prior, this book follows Xavier and Samantha. The two of them meet when she brings her kitten in for medical treatment. The kitten ends up being named Pooter, which is freaking adorable. But Xavier ends up asking Samantha out on a date after she kind of prompts him to do so, and the two of them share a very lovely and fun evening that ends up with them being accidentally locked in an escape room for a, extended period of time. And this wonderful, fabulous date happens right before, literally the night before, Samantha is meant to fly home to California. She is moving home to California from Minnesota because her mother is experiencing early onset dementia, and it is becoming too much for her father and her sister and her grandmother to take care of her mother all by themselves. And so Samantha decides that in order to support her family and what they're going through, she's going to move home, move back in with the fam in the family home that her grandmother owns and everybody else is living in. And she also is kind of worried that because she has spent a good amount of her mom's early diagnosis away from home, that her mom will not remember her. So she basically tells Xavier, hey, it is time to part ways, forget about me, let this never happen again. Hello, Bean. Hi, handsome. Okay, well, I'm gonna keep talking while I get inspected by Bean. I just came home from cat sitting a coworker's furball, and clearly I am, offensive now. So I'll continue chit chatting while he, examines my offense. But these two cannot stay away from each other to the point where Xavier breaks his, promise to forget about Sam and calls her, invites himself to a long weekend. It goes wonderfully well, and they both kind of hoped that that weekend would initially result in them, finding something that they don't like about the other and being able to move on. And instead, they just start down the path of falling in love. And oh, he's sniffing my other hand. And you're making it very hard to concentrate. I'm trying to talk about a book. I will say you haven't made much of an appearance in any of my videos for the most part. So, hopefully you guys are enjoying his cameo. But after this weekend, Samantha says, you really, really cannot keep coming here. We cannot make this work. He has just started his veterinary practice, so he is broke, and really can't afford to be visiting either. So basically, the two of them very much have very strong feelings for each other, but the logistics are kind of a nightmare. And I am enjoying it. I am struggling a little bit with the kind of insta love, insta lust aspect. That's not my favorite. However, if any author will make it work, it is Abby Jimenez. And it's not like really, really bothering me. The other thing that has kind of been a little off-putting about this book is the like modern day references. Not that I'm like opposed to references to like pop culture, but Xavier is compared to Rhysand from the ACOTAR series no less than like a dozen times in the first like 50 or so pages. It is ridiculous. Like the amount of times that he is compared to Rhys in like the first even like 4 chapters is just absurd. I can appreciate a good pop culture reference, but there is a limit, and Abby Jimenez has well and truly exceeded it. Um, I will say, I think we got like a Brad cameo. If anybody remembers, I believe it's Just for the Summer, where Justin is complaining about his like friend slash roommate's ugly dog named Brad. I think that Brad happens to be a patient of Xavier's. I could very well be wrong there, but um, Xavier lets her go through his like recent photos because he wants to show her all the patients he's been seeing recently. And they start with a dog named Brad. So I am kind of wondering if this is a little bit of a doggo cameo, but I am excited to see where this goes, see how they kind of work out their logistics, because right now it does seem rather impossible. Like I said, if he up and sold his current practice right now, would be hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Opening veterinary practice is a very like money fronting operation. He won't see a return on it for quite some time. And then as far as she's concerned, she needs to be there for her mother and for her family. And her mom could live another decade, 2 decades. Like she is 50 years old in this. And really for early onset dementia patients, it's not, and dementia patients in general, it's not the diagnosis, it's the associated like injuries and incidences that shorten one's lifespan. So, by the way, goes without saying, I think at this point, but trigger warnings. Abby Jimenez actually did do a trigger warnings in the front of this book. While my books are all rom-coms, there are still some themes in this story that may be triggering for some readers. If you feel trigger warnings are spoilers and you don't need them, please skip to the next paragraph and jump right in. So that goes for you as well. This book contains detailed descriptions of someone with advanced dementia. There's mentions of a cheating spouse, of a side character, mention of past child abuse, both physical and emotional, mentions of animal abuse, cruelty, neglect, and death. There's a scene where a dog is in peril. In parentheses, the dog doesn't die, the main character's dog will never die. Sudden off-page death of a side character with a heart condition. So, be aware if you choose to pick up this book that those are all the trigger warnings Abby has laid out for us readers. But I don't have an issue with any of those things, so I will keep trucking. I am, like I said, very interested in seeing how the two of them solve the fact that they're very permanently tied to their respective locations at the moment, which are, of course, basically almost an entire country away. Minnesota and California, I think, are like 2/3 of the way across the US map from each other. So we shall see how it goes. Like I said, I am still very much enjoying it. There are just a couple things, like I said, the pop culture references and the insta love that are making this not a 5-star read, but I am enjoying the very human story that Abby Jimenez is telling here. So I will see you guys when I am done reading this book. As I am sure you guys saw, I ended up finishing Say You'll Remember Me last night, but I did not talk to you last night because I needed a chance to sleep on how I felt about this book. And I walked away from this book with like seriously conflicting feelings. Like I thought it was going to be a 5-star read, and I think I'm going to be settling on a 3-star for this book, which breaks my heart because I am an Abby Jimenez fan. As I said at the beginning of this video, I have never rated one of her books less than 5 stars. I like the fact that she writes very realistic human romances that like address very common, like life things, health issues and relationship dynamics. Like I very much enjoy all of that. But in this one, it just did not work. And here is why it did not work for me. Now, if you rated this book 5 stars, I am so happy for you. I wish I could be you. But regardless, this is a 3-star for me. And it is because of some of the stuff I mentioned in the halfway check-in, and then also some additional things that cropped up after that. So, first of all, did not love all the pop culture references. I think that the amount of times that Xavier is compared to Rhysand in this book, especially, like I said, the first 50 or so pages, is absurd. It just is. Like, I love me a good pop culture reference, but, there's a point where instead of using a needle, we were using a sledgehammer, as the proverb goes. So, did not love the pop culture references, which is minor. More majorly, did not love the insta-love, insta-lust that happened in between our two main characters. They saw each other and it was like game over, instant. And then I just didn't love the setup of the book. I am not a huge fan of long distance relationships, and I never have been. And I don't love the fact that this book essentially set it up where one person had to give up their everything, their life, their family, their friends, their work. Like, I did not love the fact that somebody had to give up everything. That's kind of how Abby set it up, is like, in order for them to be together, one person is going to have to make all the sacrifices. And I was kind of feeling that way even in the beginning, because in the beginning of this book, after Samantha moves, Xavier is the only one making the trips to California to visit her. And I realized that, he took it upon himself, and she eventually reciprocated, and they weren't, officially dating at the time. But even once they were officially dating, I felt like it was very skewed in his direction. And that just felt really unfair to him. And at one point, he works himself into a hospital visit, trying to make enough money to visit her. And it just, I love a good, if he wanted to, he would, but I don't love that to the extent that someone's health and livelihood is being damaged. So that is another reason why I didn't like this book. But The reasons I liked this book, I loved the fact that Xavier was a vet. I am a huge animal lover. I did enjoy the relationship between the two of them. I enjoyed the fact that they were pretty practical about their circumstances for the most part. I, in general, really enjoy Abby Jimenez's writing. I enjoyed like the setting that we got and the family and kind of navigating Sam's family dynamics. You know, I appreciated all of that. The other stuff was just so glaring that it overcame the wonderful parts about this book. So that brings us to the end of today's video. This was my most anticipated read for 2025. And, you know, I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it either. I would say you should pick it up for yourself and see how you feel. But if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you would like to stick around for a while, please subscribe. Either way, I appreciate you joining me today. Have a good one. Bye.